So this is a really important metric to know where your profitability lies.
Welcome to AMC. I'm Dr. Greg Miller. We're in a series on starting a practice. And Doc, if you're already in practice, this topic of daily operations with Dr. Tara Horrall is certainly worth giving a listen to. Let's go ahead and get started.
As you're probably aware, there are many moving parts and a lot of decisions to make when looking to open a practice. For a lot of people, that can be very, very overwhelming. After all, you've been equipped in school to be a doctor and adjust patients and diagnose, but now you're having to learn how to be a chief executive officer, the chief financial officer, making all of the financial decisions and managing budgets and overhead. You're an educator, educating your patients, and communicator, right? Because you're having to effectively communicate with your patients in order to help them to understand chiropractic and why it is that they need the care that you're talking to them about. You're a patient advocate, right? You're going to bat for them on the day-to-day basis, not only for them, but also with their family members, other doctors that you're working with. You're a radiologist, right? You're having to take your x-rays, you're having to do the reports on the x-rays, analyze those x-rays chiropractically as well, show the x-rays, give reports to the patient. You're an educated entrepreneur, essentially, right? You have your own business now. You have to market that business, equip that business, run that business, and also staff that business, train the staff, equip the staff, manage the staff. So again, you're a leader. You're a leader not only in your office, but in your community and within chiropractic. You're a boss, right? Again, a lot of folks, this is the first time that they've ever had to worry about how to motivate, inspire, educate others on chiropractic in a way that helps them to help other people. So again, you are that boss, you are that manager. Heck, you're the head of your HR department, right? You do all of your own hiring. How do you find the right person to hire that's going to get on board with that mission, that's going to do the things that need to be done, and not just see that as a job where they punch the time clock and get a paycheck, but really find that to be their purpose and their mission and their career. And then, gosh, like I said before, you're the clinic director and the doctor and case manager. So you're in there day-to-day working with those patients and honing your craft as far as your technique and your adjusting skills and your diagnostics. So how do you put all those things together in order to make an office run smoothly, and how do you keep track of it? And when we talk about keeping track of it, statistics is something that's very important that you're going to need to be keeping for this new office. And a lot of people keep statistics. A lot of people keep the big 4 or 5, right? They want to know, okay, how many people did I see, and how many new patients did I see, and how much did I collect? Well, that's all well and good, but there's a lot more to it than just how many people you saw and what the total amount that you collected was. Because again, if you don't know where you're looking to head with those statistics, and if you're not keeping statistics, for some folks, you don't know where you are. And then a lot of people, even if they are keeping statistics, they don't know what to do, even if they see those statistics going a direction that they don't want them to go. So not only do you need to be able to keep them, and you need to be able to review them, but you need to know what to do and how to fix it if you see that not going in the right direction. An example of some of these things, first of all, are you getting an adequate number of new patients? Are you getting an adequate or the number of referrals that an office should be getting? Honestly, you should be getting between 3 and 5% of your patient visits come back to you in referrals. Are you teaching them to refer? And this is where you're going to know whether those efforts are going well or not. Also, statistics-wise, you need to be looking at your patient visit average. Is it between 40 and 60? How long are you keeping those new patients that are walking in the door? Because if you're not keeping those new patients, they're not following through with your recommendations, and then they're not going on to maintenance care, you're running a mineral oil practice. You're always going to have to be out there every weekend doing marketing, looking for the next thing. There's nothing wrong with marketing, but doing that every weekend for long enough, you're going to end up with some burnout if you're working all week and then marketing all weekend, every weekend for years and years on end. So again, it's really important that you're paying attention to, am I keeping those new patients? And it's really easy as a doctor, take my word for it, to get in there and be seeing the people, you're adjusting every day, and for people to drop off, but you never notice it. So if you're not keeping track of it numbers-wise, that's going to happen. So what are your services rate? What's your service to collection ratio? How much of your services that you're doing are you actually collecting? You know, obviously you want to keep that as high as possible, but really it should be somewhere in that 90 to 100% rate. And some folks, even with the offices that I work with, even collect over 100%. So are you collecting for what you're doing? All that work that you're doing, are you getting the fruits from that? What's your closing ratio? Of the new patients that walk in your door, are they converting to care? Are they continuing and following through with your recommendations? And then, like we said with PVA, how far into that are they going? Is your staff keeping up with scheduling? That's something that you're going to be noticing from your statistics. You should be keeping track of these things numerically so that whenever something's not going right with your staff, you can measure it, know when it's happening, and then know how to fix it. Are your patients converting to maintenance? So once they get through their initial acute care, are they continuing on to maintenance? What's the percentage of that? And again, obviously we want that as high as possible, but you really ought to be at the 80% or more mark there. How is your patient compliance? How are your missed appointments? Again, it's a pretty good indicator if your missed appointments are higher than 10%, that the patients are running the office, or really you're just not in control of those patients. They're not in compliance. And really, whenever they're not in compliance, they're not getting the best results possible with their care. Again, you know, if I give you the recipe for brownies, the very best brownies out there, and you leave out half of the ingredients, you tell me how good those brownies are going to taste. They might look like brownies and they might smell like brownies, but I promise they're not going to taste like they would have if you would have had all of the proper ingredients in there. Just like your patients and their health. If they're taking out half of the adjustments, I promise they're not getting the results that they're looking for. And again, where results start to slide, now you're not going to be getting the referrals that you should be getting either because of that. How much does each patient cost you to see? What's your overhead per patient visit? Again, we want to keep this as low as possible. You know, I was just talking on a coaching call the other day with someone who has a $14 and some change overhead per patient visit and a $59 collection per patient visit. So for every person that walks in the door, it costs them $14 to see the patient, but they're making $59. Now, what does that come out in profit, right? That comes out to what, $45 in profit. For every person that walks in the door, they know they're going to turn $45 worth of profit because they've kept that overhead low whenever they opened. And this is not years and years in practice. These folks have only been out for 4 to 5 months and open in their practice. So again, we want to keep that overhead as low as possible. But if you're not tracking that, there's no way for you to know whenever you have an insurance company that you're working with, if they decide to cut their your collections, or what the amount that they're going to pay you, and that ends up being higher than your overhead per patient visit, you're actually paying that insurance patient to come into your office. So this is a really important metric to know where your profitability lies. What's your case average? What does your average care plan cost? So for every new patient that walks in the door, what's the average amount that care plan is going to be? Again, this is a really important important metric for you to see. Am I growing? Am I on par? And not only that, but if the case average that you're getting in collections doesn't match up with what's on your statistics, or at least what you're recommending, you know they're missing care somewhere in between. How do you know if you're not keeping proper statistics and keeping track of them? If there's embezzlement in your office. Again, we've seen this many, many times in offices, and again, your statistics are going to shed light on that. Next one, how effective is each of your internal or external marketing events? Again, you should be tracking each internal and external marketing event so that you know, okay, how did we do with that? What did each new patient cost in order for us to bring those patients in? And do we really want to do that again? Or how do we need to tweak that in order to make it more effective next time? Like I said, you can keep all of these statistics, but if you don't know how to fix it, or you're not paying attention to them at all, it's going to be pretty hard or pretty useless for you to be keeping them at all to begin with. So like I said, there's a lot of things to think about in the operations on the day-to-day in starting a practice. But I hope this gives you some information, some things to think about whenever you're opening your practice, so that you can keep track of those, so that you can prepare yourself. Like I said before, there's a lot of things to think about and a lot of things to manage in the day-to-day operations of not only starting a practice, but also starting it right and maintaining it at a strong level throughout the years. So I hope this gave you some things to think about.
Thanks for joining us today. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified whenever we post new content. Check the description for more ways to get our content, and if you'd like more information about AMC and how it might help your practice, reach out to us at amcfamily.com.